Good morning, Chairman. I request you to take over. We can start. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll start now. Mr. Subhendu Das, Managing Director, Hellman Logistics. Mr. Anshuman Sinha, Partner, Etikani, India. Distinguished speakers, invitees, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It gives me a great pleasure to welcome you all to the virtual Automotive Supply Chain 2021 with focus on orchestrating new experience. I'd like to introduce you to Mr. Subhendu Das, Managing Director, Hellman Logistics. Subhendu Das is the Managing Director of Hellman for the last 6 years. Hellman Worldwide Logistics is one of the top global logistics company with 300 plus offices in 6 continents. With a degree in science from Kolkata University and having done many national and international business programs, training programs, including from the prestigious IIM Bangalore, he passed the Ashridge Business School UK in business leadership. In the past, Subhendu has worked with top MNCs in India in various roles and in various regions. Subhendu is also a member of the various steering committee in logistics. He has 31 years experience in freight forwarding in India across roles and across regions. He's strong in business development, skilled in operations management, supply chain optimization, import, freight, and reverse logistics. I would also like to welcome Mr. Anshuman Sinha, Partner, Etikani, India. Anshuman is a partner with Etikani office in Mumbai office for over a decade with rich consulting experience with the firm across automotive, transportation, and logistics clients. He has worked closely with government ministries as well as private sector clients, advising clients on policy and infrastructure planning, and even in strategy and operations at that end. So it's a wide spectrum of experience, strategy, operations, infrastructure, and also advising the government on policy. CII Institute of Logistics upcoming major digital event in the month of December 2021 is the most awaited SCALE Awards. It's the 8th edition of the SCALE Award. SCALE is aimed to encourage and celebrate logistics and supply chain progress made by Indian industry. This year, keeping in mind the COVID-19 situation, SCALE process has been simplified. Past editions were a great success, and this year too, there is good interest expressed from all the earlier participants and is likely to attract equal or more number of companies and professionals participating in this. Let me now talk a few lines about the conference. Unlike the pre-pandemic auto supply chain planning, the future auto supply chains will have 3 key characteristics. Global auto companies are increasingly looking for engagement with worldwide suppliers. In addition to engineering capabilities, risk planning, and agile manufacturing are expected from suppliers to win the business. Supply chain spectrum is going to be more skewed towards responsiveness in the short run. Given the present and future circumstances, automakers tend to provide higher weightage for strengthening supply chain responsiveness. Data analytics, business intelligence will continue to get attention in the tactical supply chain planning as well. Moving on, the next key thing in this would be the autonomous vehicles. While fully autonomous vehicles moved from concept to testing stage, connected supply chains are now a reality. The success of connected supply chains will rely on various logistics service providers' ability to deploy emerging technologies and global transport management systems. This conference aims at presenting future auto supply chains characteristics and thrust of twin engines, sustainability and digitization. Key questions that would be addressed include, what are the challenges in achieving supplier diversity? How recent advances in connected auto supply chains are shifting the horizons of tactical planning, productivity, safety, and efficiency? Is automotive industry leading democratization of artificial intelligence for supply chain planning. Supply chain for automotive industry is a very important aspect, and with the kind of disruptions that has happened due to COVID and certain geopolitical reasons, this is going to take much more importance in the minds of all professionals. And it's not just a supply chain issue now. Supply is now becoming a board issue and is the most important problem that all CXOs are, grappling with. So we'll have a very interesting session today. There are multiple sessions that are going to be addressed, but may I now request Mr. Anshuman Sinha, partner AT Kearney, to deliver his theme address and take us through his presentation, which I'm sure you'll all find very useful. Over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Shankar. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure and it's indeed a privilege for me to be as part of this platform. I think year on year, we have been very proud of being associated with CII to help share our views. And I must say that, and I think all of you, I hope will resonate with the fact that these are some of the most unique times in our lives, where so many assumptions that we had around how business has to be run, how supply chains should be run, how globalization would work, or the changes that were happening. We are in the middle of so many of these changes that it's a little difficult to truly conclude which of those changes are permanent, which of those changes are more transient, and some of those changes could be U-turn as well. So what I'll do over the next 10-15 minutes or so, I have a short presentation, but what we've done is we've sort of reflected on the journey over the last 18 months that automakers and the supply chains have broadly faced. There were some initial assumptions, there were some initial thoughts of what's likely to happen. And as Mr. Shankar pointed out, some of it was also beginning to happen because of geopolitical issues even before COVID. And which of these, at least according to us, feels like these trends are here to stay. And therefore, whether it is the OEMs, whether it is the suppliers, or even the logistics supply service providers who have to essentially connect the two, they have to be mindful of, and which of them could be a little bit more transient in nature. All of us are also in the middle of almost record, I would say, mentions of supply chain as an issue. And I was just catching up on news recently, which said that in the last investor calls for the global CEOs, the mentions of supply chain have actually gone up some 400%. It is now the absolute top of mind issue. Freight rates, whether it is ocean rates or air rates, whichever are through the roof, and it's starting to impact behaviors of companies. It is starting to impact behaviors of suppliers, and it's also starting to impact the behaviors of the logistics service providers. And therefore, some of these trends are important for all of us to be cognizant of and take action as and when, and depending on which part of the world and which sort of what are the areas we cover in our respective businesses, take action corresponding to those. So I'll share my screen now, and I'll go through a short presentation. Yeah, I hope my screen is visible. If it is not, just let me know.
Yeah. It's visible. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Bhanumati. So at the outset, the way we kind of looked at it, you see 5 core trends which are already shaping the post-pandemic automotive supply chains, and if anything, they will continue to deepen their impact. Many of these themes will actually be covered in a lot more depth in the subsequent session, so I don't want to go into too much detail, but I want to give a little bit of an overview of what some of these trends look like, and I'm sure the subsequent sessions will be much more enriching in going through some of these details. So the first thing is really a readjustment of the supply chains, a change of assumptions around how global the supply chains need to be, how specific the supply chains need to be. So, one anchor supplier for one component, or 2 anchor suppliers for, let's say, one automotive part, and the supply chains constructed around, let's say, that relationship. So some of that is beginning to change, both geographically, as well as the role that OEMs are wanting to take in their supply chains. Classically, it used to be in automotive tier 1 relationships, but we are beginning to see automotive OEMs actually wanting to take more control over a wider supply chain as well, including down to tier 3 and tier 4 suppliers. The second theme that the second big trend that we see is increasing visibility. So a lot more information is required to be made visible across the supply chain. Obviously, it leverages the data that is already sitting with all of you as part of your day-to-day business. But what is changing is really the fact that it is becoming almost imperative for the OEMs and for the people who do the business that they have to have the complete visibility of their supply chains. It's sort of a no-brainer that it's been driven by unusual volume shifts, unusual volume changes that happened very, very sharply month on month, quarter on quarter over the last 6 quarters or so. That this has now become an imperative that unless there is end-to-end visibility in the supply network, potentially even business granting business to suppliers will be considered at risk. The third theme that we are seeing is a much higher role of responsiveness and resilience, and this is different from visibility in the sense that because of the sharp swings that happened in volumes and sharp swings that happened, even geographical reallocation in terms of where the business was growing, because different parts of the world were suffering from COVID at different paces at different points of time, and that fact has still not changed 18 months into more than 18 months into when things started. So therefore, the role of supply chains to, let's say, push themselves a little bit more or respond much more aggressively in certain months, batten down the hatches in certain other months, and therefore how smartly risk is perceived, how smartly risk is managed inside the supply chains. That's again an area where we are seeing an increasingly high amount of importance being placed. The fourth aspect is around sustainability, and I believe this is a very important time to talk about this topic. Not necessarily driven by COVID, but the broader sort of environment and the broader situation that we live in. All of you would have been caught up on the COP26 news. India has committed itself to a net zero target over the next 5 decades or so. So all of that will essentially then translate to the entities who do business in this space, and therefore we see that there are commitments, there are actual investments that are beginning to happen in making supply chains more ESG compliant. A lot of pressure. Partly it's also investor pressure and shareholder pressure, but also more importantly, just a broader awareness of how we are in the world right now is driving this additional thrust. And that will again require some changes in either the sort of material which was sourced and where it was sourced from, what sort of information needs to be available for the material that is being sourced to be convinced that it is, let's say, environmentally sustainable or other. So there are sort of a lot of implications on the sustainability front as well. And the fifth one, which is a bit of a overarching theme, and I must also say that digitalization as a theme is not new. It was always happening. We had started to see this maybe in the early part of the previous decade. So in the mid 2010s, it's sort of accelerated, picked up steam with better data processing ability, with a suite of suppliers available who can actually process the data and come out with meaningful, relevant outcomes. But I guess what has probably accelerated more again post-COVID is because there is much more thrust on information sharing, better data standards, common data standards. So OEMs again are expecting that the supply chain participants will be more digitalized than they were perhaps. And that means not just digitalization in operations, but also digitalization in how information is shared, how sales is conducted, all the way to even things like how sales are being conducted by the auto OEMs, although that's a topic that goes beyond an auto supply chain, but even dealerships and the way virtual sales are taking over. So almost starting from what the end consumer sees all the way till what a tier 1 or tier 2 supplier sees, we are seeing that there is a thrust on everybody expected to be much more digitally savvy in their day-to-day operations and just work with a suite of service providers who can help, because by definition, some of these capabilities don't really reside in manufacturing setups as things stand, or even service setups. So there is a need to take help of other service providers. So these are the 5 themes, at least, that we see, which are shaping the post-pandemic supply chains, and at least we believe that many of these will actually accelerate very, very rapidly in the years to come, once the economic impact of many of these is also very, very clear. Some of these started originally with just a focus on survival, focus on smoothening the impact of a pandemic, but increasingly an economic value will also be very, very obvious, and therefore we expect that to happen quite in a sustained manner. So the first theme, which is around readjustments of supply chains. So what we are seeing is sort of 3 core areas. First is the whole geopolitical issues between US and China, which sparked off the whole China plus one strategy. And now we are seeing most OEMs, if not all, of at least the big 6 nations, actively evaluating alternate suppliers in locations outside what could have been considered a traditional manufacturing hub. So whether it is Vietnam, whether it is Chile, or whether it is Brazil, for example. Of course, India and Mexico continue to be in the mix. There is also activism from government side. For example, Japan government announced a stimulus of upwards of $200 million for companies which were willing to relocate their supply bases to China. So whatever additional, from China. So whatever additional cost that was going to be incurred, to some extent, subsidies would be provided by the government. So in some ways, it's a bit of a combination of both geopolitical posturing as well as a very real change in the way businesses will move out, and therefore the need to connect much more countries, much more volumes across lanes, which are perhaps not as traditional as we used to have. The second aspect of the readjustment that we are seeing is there's a thrust on a little bit of a nearshoring as well. When all along over the last couple of decades, the entire thrust was to find the cheapest or the most cheapest plus most high quality supply anywhere in the world, and then fix up a supply chain that is able to connect the 2 locations. But what has happened over 18 months has led a lot of OEMs in the big automotive nations to keep a part of supply chain close to themselves, even if they are a little bit more expensive. Because as all of you know, and all of you experience this as well, the cost of disruptions in supply chains is far higher than what incremental that you might pay of a somewhat inefficient supply chain, even if you were paying more on a per shipment basis. So we are seeing this happen in Europe most aggressively, which had previously shifted a lot of their supply chains already to Latin America, to Asia, actually looking for much more nearshoring in Eastern Europe, in Czech, Hungary, Bulgaria, and others. And the third theme that we are seeing on readjustment is OEMs which traditionally did not go too far into their supply chains. So they kind of maintained their relationship with tier ones, which was their core relationship. And then it was expected that everybody sort of behaves and maintains the relationship thus. But we are beginning to see that some of these OEMs are also now looking to improve their access to suppliers down the line. Most specifically in the last 12 months, again, all of you are party to having seen this on absolute front line, is the whole semiconductor value chain, where again, it's an issue that continues to plague the industry. It's an issue that will, by all estimates, continue to be important for at least another 6, 8, 10 months, if not more. And that has prompted OEMs to also think of increasing their relationships with beyond tier ones. So direct supply chain access to tier 3s and tier 4s. What has started with electronics and with semiconductors, once the economic benefits of this become apparent, it is fairly likely that it will also start to move to other components where the automotive OEMs at least feel that there may be a threat to their supply base. So they will then take a much more activist role in securing the supply chains, even for tier 3 and tier 4 suppliers. So we see, at least from a readjustment theme, sort of these three aspects clearly playing out, with actual examples of companies making some of these choices, or at least clear stated intentions of making some of these moves. The second theme is around building a much higher visibility across the supply chain. So this is essentially, again, this was a theme which was always there. It was through the advent of digitalization. It was beginning to be seen over the last maybe 5-8 years or so. But what has increased more perhaps is the fact that, again, the thrust to see or have a visibility across the entire chain, not just with their immediate tier ones, just a continuation of what I spoke earlier. And one good example of this is, an entity like Daimler, which in fact did a pretty large overhaul of their one of those big six procurement systems that they used, which had its advantages, but had also limited the flexibility in terms of how many suppliers can be onboarded and what sort of visibility can be provided. And a company like Daimler has then moved to a SaaS-based system for their procurement, and there is a strong visibility for across approximately 400,000 suppliers globally, whether they are tier ones or whether they are tier twos or beyond. We are also beginning to see OEMs coming together to with a clear focus on sharing data and also building visibility to manage supply chains. And many of them are now part of the community called Autosphere, whether it is the Japanese, whether it is the Americans or different suppliers as well. So there is a clear understanding that there will be investments which will go into making supply chains, increasing the visibility across supply chains. And again, the service providers who are already in a position to guarantee better visibility through their own systems are in a better place to maybe capitalize on this trend and offer a better proposition to OEMs and suppliers. The third theme that I wanted to talk about is in terms of resilience and responsiveness. I think all of us witnessed this even in the early months of lockdown in India, where it was not very clear what were the rules of movement. It was not very clear what was allowed to be open for how long, which zones, and the information was dynamic. Information was not always immediately available. Many of us were kind of struggling to keep our operations running in the manufacturing industry, especially with this. And there again, we see that players who were faster to respond generally had a better, let's say, likelihood of succeeding with their partners, with the OEMs. And some of these examples are from India, where again, when we had lockdowns in some of the states which were more stringent than certain others, manufacturing was quickly shifted to a different state where it was easier to supply from, and at least that kept ensuring or that ensured that operations continued at the OEM. We are also seeing another impact of the whole responsiveness themes, which is an investment in risk management. I think that was an area which was sort of, for lack of a better word, a bit of an afterthought, apart from, let's say, the more important business continuity risks. But now, by virtue of importance of being responsive, the scope of risk management has become a lot more spread out. So, which includes, for example, much more aggressive modeling of future supply chain scenarios, what sort of complexities we will get into, what are the impact of different scenarios, and therefore what's the most likely actions to take. So we are beginning to see a lot of investments being made in this area as well, because this is not necessarily a skill which is necessarily sitting inside the firm. So these investments are translating into better planning, better managing the flows in the supply chains of some of these companies, whether it is India or whether it is abroad. The fourth theme that we are beginning to see is, that's beginning to accelerate, is around sustainability. And I think as I started with, this is an area which is absolute top of the press right now, especially over the last week, 10 days. While there are sort of debates around EV adoption and when do we move to 100%, because actually none of the major 6 countries committed to a 2035 target for ICE engines fade out. But having said that, there are other areas in which sustainability is being driven. Most importantly, in raw material sourcing. So we see examples of Volkswagen or Hyundai, which are beginning to shift to raw materials which are more eco-friendly, which are more renewable in certain parts of their certain components that could be produced with those raw material. We are also seeing commitments and announcements around transitioning to 100% sustainability over a period of time. So mix of both things that are beginning to happen, as well as things that are announced and should translate soon. And the second part of sustainability is a little bit broader, which is the ESG compliance agenda. A lot of it is driven by stakeholder activism. A lot of it is being driven by questions being asked of CEOs of how compliant they are, and the market's also rewarding companies which are higher on this curve better than companies which are not. Again, one example of this is the recent blockchain network which has been set up by Volvo, Volkswagen, and Ford. And the primary objective of that is to ensure ethical sourcing of minerals and increasing guaranteeing the fact that the sourcing is of high quality and ethically compliant. Similarly, whether it is use of renewable energy, renewable materials, so along all dimensions, there is a pressure on supply chains to be more ESG compliant. It starts with OEMs, tier ones, but very soon, because logistics and transportation is a very important component of keeping the supply chains going, it will also come, and those questions will also be asked of the logistics service providers. And again, some firms which have a agenda in place or which have a, I would say, stated direction, even if they may not have reached the end state, those will, in our view, have a better chance of getting business. Because it fits or it helps the OEMs achieve their own agenda in turn. So that's an area to watch out for. Which of these makes sense from an investment perspective for all of us. And the last theme is on digitalization. And as I started with, this was again one of those themes which was underway all along over the last 7-8 years. But it's more that the pace has accelerated. New areas of digitalization are beginning to be seen. So the most important one is in terms of monitoring employees' health and hygiene and using advanced systems to do that. But also, an example like Catena-X, which was again in some ways Volkswagen is sort of the founder of that network, where the core intention is to set up sort of common data standards. So it's not a digitalization, it's not a visibility initiative as much as it is fixing the standards in which data should be exchanged across the participants. And then that helps sort of showcase a continuous or a consistent viewpoint across the entire supply chain. Also, there are enough evidences of blockchain being used, which was a pretty novel thing 2-3 years back. Small pilots were being done, but we are now seeing increasingly many different sort of use cases coming out of it, whether it is use cases to help monitor the entire visibility of the produce, whether it is to monitor financial transactions. So that there are many different use cases that are actually coming out of blockchain, and the industry is also kind of taking these in their stride in terms of driving some of these forward. So again, the implication is that whichever of these translate or wherever at least the OEMs will be making their investments, there will be an expectation that the supply chains also become compliant with the expectations that the OEMs have. And along these 5 themes, at least the way we see it is, whoever is in a better position to provide some of these solutions upfront will generally have a better advantage in representing themselves with the OEMs and with the supply chains, and consequently that translates into business as well. Key thing is to make all of them work economically, because and that's been one of the big challenges of the sustainability agenda as well. That what's the economic basis of driving the sustainability agenda? But I think with volumes, with scale, investor pressure, government pressure, all of this acting together, some of these will take a natural course. So that's what I wanted to cover today, at least sort of a crystal ball gazing into what could happen. And we see that these 5 trends are here to stay. Some of them are new, some of them are acceleration of previous trends. But I think all of us will benefit from really thinking about how do we apply some of these to our respective businesses, and what does it mean for us to have that as part of our operation, and then how do we communicate about it, and what sort of a proposition we take to our business partners. So that's what I had for all of you today. I hope some of these triggers thoughts on what can be done, and I'll hand it back to Dr. Bhanumati and Mr. Shankar.
Okay, thank you, Ashman. That was indeed a really nice presentation, and you spoke about 5 mega trends that are impacting auto supply chains. And as you rightly said, some of them are, acceleration of the current trends, and some of them are, newer trends that all stakeholders in the auto supply chain need to adapt. You spoke about realignment, improvement, increasing resilience, digitization, and the point on visibility. But one of the most important points, which is actually the world is grappling with, is sustainability and ESG. And there are, whether it is because of government pressure, activist pressure, or because of the realization that this needs to be done for this world to be livable in the foreseeable future, when, if we can't afford to do it. Automotive industry has a large impact to, is an impact creator, and is also can, make a significant difference. And all of us in the auto supply chain, be it a supplier, be it a service provider, or be it automotive OEM, all of us can do. Your examples and current life things of how people are changing, OEMs are changing, suppliers are changing, service providers are changing, also was very, very useful. And I'm sure all in the audience would have really benefited from this. These supply chain trends are here to stay. And like some of them, you said that one of the things that really caught my attention was, people are moving from tier 1 to multiple tier in terms of building relationships, because today, from a focus for many decades on demand, suddenly supply has become a big focus. And, you hear stories that, I have demand, I have orders pending, I have wait listed, but I'm not able to run my plant for want of something which, a couple of years ago, we wouldn't have thought would even get into a car. So things are changing. The technology is changing. The way connected cars are coming up is changing. The way the focus on using electronics everywhere is also brought in a different realm of managing a partnership with the microchip producers, which was not there earlier. Earlier, it used to be only consumer electronics or IT companies which used to think that they are dependent on them. So the world has changed, and these 5 mega trends, like what you rightly concluded, the companies which adopt them or which are able to get across this in a faster manner are definitely going to be bigger winners, and they're going to definitely, either in terms of increasing their revenue, or in terms of margins, or in terms of, customer relationship, customer satisfaction, in whichever dimension the KPI the company wants to look at it, if they are able to adopt these faster, the organizations in the ecosystem is definitely going to benefit. So thank you very much for your great presentation, very crisp, concise, but very, very enriching to all the participants. I think we have come to the end of the opening session. The next session starts at 11, and I request all the participants to join back or hold on until 11. You will have a very enriching day. There are 3 or 4 sessions that are planned. The panelists are all going to be really going to give you a lot more insights into many things. So I look forward to all of you having a very interactive, learning, and engaging session moving forward. Thank you very much. Bhanuvati, that's it.
Sir, we have Mr. Subhendu Das here.
Okay, sorry.
He would, yeah.
Okay, sorry. Subhendu would like to mention a few words. I'm apologies, I just missed out you. Subhendu, go ahead, Subhendu. Yeah.
May I request you to switch on the video? So we are not able to see you, that's why. Mr. Subhendu? Yeah. No, we are not getting. Okay, I think there is some technical snag. As you rightly concluded, we may meet up again as per the schedule for the next session.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.